Hi, thanks for checking out the Beer Temple again. My name is Chris Quinn, and today I've got a really special beer here. I like beers that have stories. I think it's just kind of fun to know the story behind a beer, or if there is a story behind the beer, it's kind of cool to keep that in mind. And when I heard about this beer here, I thought it was really one of the coolest stories I had ever heard. And it really made me feel kind of, well, beer drinking always makes me feel good, but this you can actually feel good about yourself in a way for drinking the beer. It is a collaboration beer that benefits the tsunami victims in Japan. And there's actually a really cool story behind it. You can go on Stone's website and check it out. But just a kind of a brief background on it. So Stone Brewing out of San Diego has been one of the really big players and one of the big proponents of the craft beer movement. And they're really one of the big players in the movement as well. Greg Cook, the owner of Stone, is one of the really true rock stars of craft brewing, I'd say. Him and Sam Calagione maybe is the only other one who you would say is a rock star, maybe Garrett Oliver of Brooklyn Brewery. But he has become, in a way, the face of craft brewing, especially from that West Coast style. And he, as much as anybody else in the industry, is always kind of pushing the envelope and also trying to get the message out about what craft beer means, how it's using the best quality ingredients and really being inventive and putting out the best product and not relying just on marketing to get your beer sold. That said, he's also probably one of the best marketers out there for his own beer and just for beer in general. And he does a lot of collaborations. They have a collaboration series at Stone, and this is just the latest of it. And they usually have 3 breweries, one of which is Stone. And the other 2 breweries for this particular collaboration, one is Ishii Brewing out of Guam, found by a former Stone brewer. His name is Yoshi Ishii. And he is a Japanese guy. And the other is an American who is the brewmaster of a Japanese craft brewery called Baird. I think his name is Brad Baird or something like that. So they got together and decided that they wanted to brew a beer that all the profits of which would go towards the victims of the Japanese earthquake. So they went about making this beer, and it's really kind of cool. Like I said, all the profits go towards the victims, and they got like the label printing was donated to them, and the glass for the bottles was donated to them, and they have all this on the bottle, and it's kind of a really cool story as well. And they made an IPA, and they infused it, they dry hopped it with Japanese green tea. So dry hopping, for those of you who may not know what that is, while a beer is fermenting, they actually will take hops and throw them into the fermenter to kind of let them infuse the beer with a really rich hop aroma without imparting really any bitterness. So what they did is they basically dry hopped with green tea, with the Japanese green tea. They also used some really cool hop varietals. They used a couple American varietals, but they also used this really interesting Alsatian hop that I think is called Armistice, that I've never heard of, and to my knowledge I've never tried before. And also Sorachi Ace, which is a Japanese hop varietal, which I thought was kind of cool. And finally, the last little cool thing is this is a very, very big beer. It comes in at 9.2%. And for an IPA, I mean, that's really a double IPA, an imperial IPA at that point. And when you look into it more, you realize that the reason it's so high is they wanted to get it at around 9%, 9.0, to correspond with the Richter scale reading for the Japanese earthquake, which was a 9.0. So I thought that was kind of cool too. There's just, story upon story in this beer, and I always like to drink interesting beers that have cool stories behind them. So with that said, that is the story of the beer. So let's try the beer. The good thing about Stone is that they are one of the larger craft breweries, and they distribute pretty widely. So there's a good chance that you can find this beer locally. So I recommend you do it. Go and actually do some good with your beer drinking for other people. Beer drinking is always good for you. Because this beer is so big in alcohol, over 9%, in general, as beers become stronger, you drink them warmer because you want to get all those complexities that bigger beers have. So I've had this one sitting out. I've got my fun little Beer Geek temperature reader, so I'll shoot it, and it's super dorky. So what you want is this to be probably just under room temp, and it's looking to me like it's 61.5 degrees. So that's pretty much just about perfect for a big beer like this. You want to just take it out of the fridge and let it sit for a while. So anyway, let me see what we got here. Nice golden amber kind of fall autumn color. Very, very nice looking beer. It is bottle conditioned, so there is a little bit of haze in there. Bottle conditioned means that there's some yeast in there. There's a lot of hops as well, and I'm going to try to sniff more silently because I got some feedback that it's disgusting to hear me sniff, so I apologize for that. I can imagine that not being pleasant. So I'm not getting... You're definitely getting the hops in there. I'm not sure if I'm getting a lot of green tea. It's kind of hard because a lot of times you can get hops that are very herbaceous and probably pretty similar to what some teas can smell like as well. I also am not a tea expert by any means, but I am getting kind of a lemony, herbaceous quality to it. Something that I would think comes from the Sorachi Ace. So it's a pleasant smelling beer. Not over the top. You get a nice kind of caramely maltiness as well. It's a big beer, so there's certainly a lot going on here. Really cool. So wow, this is an interesting beer. It's very complex. A lot of layered flavors going on here. Wow, and it's still growing. It's still just kind of evolving. Interesting. Ooh, it's still going. So when I first took this beer, and it's kind of even developing as I start talking about it, I got a nice kind of marmalade-y, jammy orange flavor to it. And I was like, oh, this is nice, but it's kind of typical of a normal IPA. And then I started getting those green tea flavors that kind of started mingling in and came up with it. And then I swallowed the beer, and it finished very clean, and I was getting more of that herbaceous tea, green tea quality to it. And then I started getting some of that heating, boozy feeling in my mouth because, there's a lot of alcohol in there. And then finally, as that's kind of sitting in there, that kind of slow burn, then I started getting some of that hop bitterness at the end. And that was kind of the lingering quality. And now that I'm sitting here, I still have a little bit of all of those elements. I still have that kind of marmalade-y quality. I have some of the herbal. I have the bitterness, and I have the booze. But none of them are really overmatching each other, and none of them are really over prominent. They're harmonizing pretty well, and I think that's pretty tough to do in a beer this big with that much going on, and with ingredients that you're probably not used to brewing with. And it's scarily drinkable. I mean, considering that you put one of these bottles down, it's like drinking two of almost any other beer. You could definitely drink a whole bottle of this without much problem, and I think as soon as this podcast is over, I will be doing just that. I like this beer a lot. I love the story behind it. It makes it fun to drink. I'm gonna give this beer a 91. It's a really good beer. Go and look for it. It's Barrett Ishii Stone Japanese Green Tea IPA. There's a really cool story behind it. And tell me what you think about it. Tell me if you agree, or if you have any other questions. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter and on our own site. And as always, thanks for checking us out. I really appreciate it. See you later.